try if I can. Okay, we are recording this. Okay, so Scrum I heard is a framework. Someone said Scrum is a methodology. Any other?
Yeah, Scrum is an agile framework for managing and guiding collaboration on projects.
Scrum is a management framework to guide and collaborate. Okay, awesome.
Scrum is iterative, time-boxed, and customer-centric.
Iterative, time-boxed, and customer-centric. Okay, thank you. Kanika, I see your hand up. You want to say something?
Yeah, Scrum, I just wanted to say that it's based on the rugby concept, right? Where people get together for a collective ownership and they go through that the principles of empiricism are very important. Inspect, adapt, those principles. So that forms the core of Scrum.
Sure.
Without that, it can't exist.
Sure, thank you. Yes, Scrum is based on empiricism. But what is empiricism? Anyone? Before we even conclude what is Scrum, because we are hearing a very, very interesting terminology here, empiricism.
Gaining knowledge from the experiences.
Gaining knowledge from experience. Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Testing and learning from iterations.
Testing and learning from iterations.
Transparency, inspection, and adaptation.
Transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Correct. Okay. So empiricism, just to recap what I'm hearing in this group is excellent. So empiricism is not something new. So empiricism is not something we didn't know before. We have been empirical throughout our life. Any decision we make is based on some observations or some past experience. Right? Isn't it? Any decision, right? When you're driving, your driving is based on your past experience or your financial investment or your learning, your project working. So anything that we do on a daily basis is empirical in nature, right? Learning from observations and past experience. And that whole phenomenon is called empiricism. And yes, it consists of 3 key pillars. And these are transparency, inspection, adaptation. Now, how is this relevant to us? Scrum is based on these 3 pillars, where it enables transparency within the Scrum team members. They inspect at regular intervals, and then they adapt for future cycles or future sprints. So that's what is empiricism in a brief. But going back to our question, Scrum. Yes, Scrum is a framework. Now, a framework, how can we define it? A framework is a set of certain guidelines or set of certain rules, certain practices. So wherein it will give you a quick guidance in terms of this is how you can do, these are the boundaries, these are the rules within which you are performing a certain job, developing a product or servicing a customer or responding to a sales proposal. Now, whatever we do, there are certain rules, right? Of course, within those rules, you can always customize based on what you need and customize based on your context, right? A framework is not really a rigid process. Now, what is a process? There are so many terms we are trying to introduce here. A process is nothing but you're going to follow all those steps, some serial steps, some parallel steps. It's a very, very rigid aspect, right? Well, a framework comes with a lot of flexibility. Scrum, some of you would have heard, was first time introduced in the 1980s. Scrum is not new to this world. And it was first formally introduced in 1995 in a conference by 2 people, Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber. And those are the 2 people who have been practicing Scrum with the help of several other thousands of practitioners. They finally created some guidance about Scrum called as the Scrum Guide. I'm assuming many of us would have either seen it, read it, used it during your Scrum implementation.
Yes.
Okay, great. So the Scrum Guide has also been going through certain changes based on empiricism, like any other product, like any other human being, like any other process or a service. Scrum Guide has also been evolving over the last several years. So the latest Scrum Guide was rolled out about 3 years ago. There is a newer version probably coming out in, I don't know, next few months or years. So yes, Scrum helps in building complex products to serve customers, to build any projects, and in many industries. It's not necessarily only for IT software industry. It can be used to apply in a non-IT industry as well. So just to give you an idea, Scrum can be applied in industries to develop software products, hardware, manufacturing, automotive, marketing, banking, any industry, right? Aerospace. So at Premier Agile, we collected a lot of case studies in case anyone would like to quickly figure out what are some of those case studies outside an IT context. Maybe you should browse through our website and you can figure out, these are not our case studies. These are some things which we collected across the globe. And then we created a repository on our website. So thanks to all those practitioners who have put up these case studies together. So Naveen can provide us the link to these case studies if anyone is interested to learn further. Okay, and Scrum enables those short cycles called sprints, wherein you're trying to ask for customer feedback in a more transparent manner. And then in a sprint, on the last day, you're doing something called as a sprint review, where you are demonstrating the work done to your customers and you're trying to gather their feedback very early. That's in a traditional waterfall. The cycle could be possibly about 6 months, 1 year, or even 3 months in some few cases. But in Scrum, we are trying to enable this in a much shorter cycle. So that's in a nutshell about Scrum. And then I would recommend you to read the Scrum Guide in case you wanted to learn more about Scrum, if you haven't done that yet. Now, who is in a Scrum team? Let's check this question to everyone here. We are seeing some icons.
Scrum Master and the development team.
Okay, Scrum Master, I heard.
Product owner, Scrum Master, development team.
Thank you. Scrum Master. Okay, then the product owner. And who is the third one?
Development team.
Development team.
Yes.
Developers.
Development team, yes, was the name before.
Agile team.
Agile
Developers.
team can be another name, yes.
Scrum team.
Scrum
Yes, Scrum
team.
team.
Together, all three together is a Scrum team.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
So who is the third one?
Development
The
team,
group of
It's developers.
Developers.
Stakeholders.
It's cross-functional team.
No, it's developers.
Self-sufficient team.
Okay, this is like a quick memory test for all of us. There are different views. Thank you. I mean, you can use any terminology. There is no restriction on what is the terminology you are using. Okay. Now, what Scrum calls them is a set of developers, right? Now, developers doesn't mean software engineers, software developers only. Developers means people who are developing that service or a product or a project or a system. Yes, this was called as development team before, but in the latest Scrum Guide version change, they felt that, there is a little confusion between development team, Scrum team, Agile team, blah, blah, blah. So there is a confusion. So they have said, we are going to call them as developers. Now, developers means people who have all the right skills, the required skills to build that system are called developers. Together, Scrum Master, Product Owner, developers together are called Scrum Team. I'll pause here to see if anyone is going to ask a question or say something about it.
Suresh, I'm just going off here. I just want to ask if the previous meeting's recording has been sent by Naveen or not. That's the question I have before we start off.
Oh, we have started off some time back. The recordings for the previous webinars are all available on LinkedIn. Just the exception is the last week we had one event, which is more on a mentoring session where people asked questions and I was able to help in terms of my experience. I was trying to help.
Yes.
So we call it as a mentoring session, except that session. Rest of the sessions are all recorded and available on our YouTube channel.
Okay, I will take it from the group, LinkedIn group.
Yes, please. And the previous mentoring session recording, we are going to process it. It may take another week or two to get it on YouTube because we have to do little bit checks, some voice checks and all that stuff.
Okay, sure. So that will be available in YouTube and not in LinkedIn?
On our YouTube channel, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
So maybe Naveen can help with the YouTube channel link so that anyone is interested can subscribe.
Thank you, Naveen.
Okay, so let's move on. Just with a small note here about the Scrum teams. I heard also a name called stakeholders. So stakeholders are those people who are either helping a Scrum team, sponsoring a Scrum team, or giving them requirements, talking about what the user needs are, or reviewing their work. So these are a bunch of people who are outside the Scrum team, right? So Scrum team has 3 accountabilities: Scrum Master, Product Owner, Developers. And the rest of the organization or other vendor organizations, legal teams, your sales teams, rest of them are all, we are calling as stakeholders as one term. Right? Okay, so let's check what is our, okay, little bit information about how can you learn more about a Scrum Master in a formal professional certification course, a certified Scrum Master by Scrum Alliance, and the next level is an advanced CSM. For a product owner, there is certified Scrum product owner and an advanced CSPO. Likewise, for developers, you have certified Scrum developer and an advanced CSD. Right. Just a side note there. In case anyone is interested to learn more, you can always reach out to my team. We are available on the chat on premieragile.com 7 days a week, at least 14, 15 hours a day. So you can get support almost at any time on our website. Okay, so getting back to the topic here, who is a Scrum Master? So I have tried to list down certain things. A Scrum Master, yes, is going to help the team in terms of enabling them, in terms of addressing their impediments or blockers or roadblocks or challenges, facilitate the Scrum events, and resolving certain conflicts within the team or those within outside the team, right? So quickly listed down some of these responsibilities. But let us check what are those different hats that Scrum Master wears. Along with a lot of others, a Scrum Master typically wears some of these hats, different hats at different times, depending on the need, depending on the situation, depending on the problem that he or she is trying to solve, right? Facilitation, teaching, mentoring, coaching. Okay, so quick question before we move forward. I think we are going into the crux of the session now. What is mentoring? Let's check with the group here. Anyone can help us?
Guiding throughout the process.
Guiding throughout the process.
Yeah.
Thank you, Harish.
Knowledge sharing and giving best practice tips.
Knowledge sharing, giving best
Hand holding.
hand holding.
Help them resolve impediments.
Help them resolve impediments. Sure.
Mentoring is giving guidance.
Okay. Mentoring is giving guidance.
Keeping up the agile health to the radar.
Keeping up the agile health. Okay.
It could be helping someone to, guide towards analysis and reaching at a conclusion without themselves providing any, decision or, steps. Leading the other person.
Okay. So helping without providing any steps. Okay.
So mentoring perhaps is where a mentor is able to help someone, a mentee, using their personal experience with the important characteristics that they share some sort of experience in the field of work or something like that together.
Junaid, thank you so much.
Facilitating, reducing the gaps, and also providing coaching on how it works, how a Scrum works.
Okay,
So-
so I guess we have a lot of views. Just I'll revisit my question. My question is, what is mentoring? And I know there are different views on this, but let us focus on mentoring now.
So I think so mentoring is empowering teams to be self-organized, self-managing. Allowing them to do stuff. And you just be monitoring and being as a guide to that most of the work they will do it, and you just teach them where you might not be doing that. The work in the right direction, and just help them and mentor them.
Your voice is very, very shallow, Ismail, but yes, I was able to at least get some bits and pieces. Mentoring is all about helping people and trying to maybe guide them through their goals. Yes.
Translating the product backlog to the Scrum team.
Translating the product backlog to the Scrum team.
Guiding them
Mentoring
to
is
right path.
guiding
Them to right path. Correct
Guiding
path.
them to the right path. So if you
Guiding
have
them.
observed all the 4 hats of a Scrum Master, more or less do everything, what we just heard. Guide them in the right path, helping the people without giving them the right, or without giving them the full steps, or without solving their problem by directing them, right? And these are all helping us to perform our job very well. Yes, Scrum Master wears these different hats at different times, but there has to be some difference between these, right? So
Mentoring
let's.
is guiding with experience, with what
There you
experience
go.
we had. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you, others who was on dot with this mentoring. Yes, mentoring is more about using my experience to guide people. It's not necessary that I use my experience all the time to navigate people through that problem solving. But a lot of times as a Scrum Master, I might say, hey team, this is how, we did whenever the team missed the sprint goal before. Now, do you want to take a similar step? So mentoring is all about, I have been there, I have done that. I was with this team, I had this experience, I have succeeded, I have failed at times. You see, experience can be success or failure as well, right? And that is where we learn more. So you're trying to guide people based on your past similar experiences. On the other hand, facilitation, teaching, coaching, yes, they also guide, but in a different way. So coaching. What is coaching? Let's hear from everyone, from anyone here. What is coaching in your?
Coaching the Scrum principles.
Coaching the Scrum principles. Okay. How do you do that?
We can educate the team with the points that were mentioned in the Scrum guide.
Educate. But we have something called teaching. The teaching is also like educating people.
Yeah.
So how do you differentiate between coaching and teaching then?
We can call it coach.
Coaching is something where if people go wrong, we correct them, we show them the correct path. Teaching is educating on what is right or what are the things.
Sure.
It's not for us.
Coaching is this one, understanding the strengths and weaknesses of your team and empowering them on that.
Nice.
Teaching is basically teaching the agile principles, values, and so on and so forth. Coaching will be helping your organization to make decisions. It's not just teaching them those stuff, but also helping them make certain decisions.
Okay, got that. Thank you.
Coaching is done one-to-one level.
Oh, coaching is one-to-one. So we cannot coach a team in that case?
Yes, one-to-one is more like a mentoring. Coach.
Okay.
Yeah. Teaching is something.
Coaching is something tapping potential. I mean, which is already there, someone gone through, and just high level. What do you call high level inputs or refining their path? That's it.
Is it something that you question them and let them make the right decision.
Possibly, yes.
Or making Scrum teams as self-organized.
You make teams self-organized.
Is it that they broke up?
Nice.
Mutual breakup or
Mutual?
Which involves more of practicality, putting them on practical exercises, whereas teaching can involve only theoretical parts.
Teaching is more theoretical, coaching is more practical. Wow. Okay. Okay, great. So let's summarize. There are great views. Thank you, all of you, for sharing your views so that we can learn from each other. Hopefully, this is a good learning experience. Okay, Nitya, I'm not sure if you are talking to us. If you're not, please be on mute. But so just to quickly summarize, teaching, coaching, very, very different. Teaching is probably creating that kind of an awareness, educating people on certain aspects. It could be a technical aspect. It could be an aspect on what is Scrum, what is a framework, what are the advantages, what are Scrum values, right? What are those practices you're teaching your team, other teams, other Scrum Masters, across the organization you're teaching. And as a Scrum Master, it's your job to create that kind of an awareness on how to do Scrum as well, right? But coaching is a different ball game altogether. Now, coaching is where you're trying to continuously instill, that kind of a thought process within the teams, wherein they are able to come up with a problem statement. They are able to solve their own situations, thinking in different directions. Like someone said, I guess Sri Priya was saying, coaching, you don't tell people what to do. You actually let people discover what has to be done on the ground. They are probably the expert, but they're not sure which action to take. So this is where you are probably going to ask certain powerful questions, reflect the situations, be with them in a little long term, invest your time in them, travel with them in that whole journey, and then help people to realize how things can be done much more effectively. You can have a one-on-one coaching conversation. You can have a coaching conversation between one and a team, or you can even coach your CEO, your vice president level people. Most of the times, your CEO would have already been working with somebody in the background, which you don't even know, right? Again, coaching is not a profession invented or defined by Scrum. Coaching is an existing skill, is an existing profession for more than 50 years, which Scrum has only borrowed and placed inside the Scrum framework. So Scrum expects Scrum Masters to be great coaches, right? But that's again a different subject altogether. So let us quickly check the facilitation aspect. Facilitation is all about trying to connect people, creating a platform where you are helping teams to make quick decisions. And facilitation is where you're trying to provide such an ambience or an environment where teams can brainstorm, they can come together, they can list certain options, they can see what is good, what is not so good, what is valuable. And then finally, facilitation is all about helping people to make great decisions. Remember, in Scrum, we keep saying, oh, my team is enabled or empowered. Just imagine you say this, hey, team, you are empowered. You make a plan. You make a sprint backlog. And we have about 4 hours to do it. Now, do you think people can really do it on the ground? No, they cannot. They need certain support. And that support to create an ambience where teams can make their own decisions, that environment, or you enabling them to do such discussions fearlessly is what we are calling as facilitation. It's an art more than a science that Scrum Masters should actually master this. And our session today, we are focusing more about how to do facilitation. What are some of those techniques to do facilitation?
I have one small doubt. Suresh.
Have a doubt? Yes, sir. Parag?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Does facilitation have any barriers, limitations, or restrictions in a Scrum Master's role that, you're supposed to do only this much and not, facilitate or do something more? so that the team themselves need to do something. So is there any official or formal barrier or restriction or limitation for a Scrum Master while facilitating?
Definitely there would be. So if you can kindly hold on maybe 3-4 more minutes, maybe we'll answer this question, Parag. And then we will put this question actually to everyone and then see everyone seek their views, and then I'll also add my own.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, facilitation, as we were saying, is more about how you organize. It's not just organizing in terms of infrastructure, but it is about how you run the whole proceedings of that a specific event or a decision-making meeting or anything of that sort, right? Now, the question is where a Scrum Master facilitates. A Scrum Master facilitates, especially during Scrum events and any product backlog refinement sessions, any other larger purposeful release level planning, or even a very strategic product planning as well. Some of those opportunities where Scrum Master facilitates. And especially the first two blocks out there on this slide possibly are where the Scrum teams or the developers included are involved, while the remaining two, the third and fourth, are probably some of those aspects the developers may not be even joining or may not be even aware. I mean, having them is great, but sometimes they do not have the opportunity to join. But a Scrum Master may still influence an organization or a product owner or a business team in terms of release planning, product planning. When I say product planning, it could be a little long-term strategic thinking in terms where the product owner or the think tank of the organization is creating, for example, a product vision. Now, what could be a vision why we are doing this? There can be several ideas. And then everyone says, this is the best idea on planet Earth. Possible, right? So when people get to that kind of thinking, a meeting could become more chaotic. And that is where a facilitator would help. And a facilitator being so neutral will bring a lot of objective conversation to the table and then helps people to make decisions. Now, when you happen to join our trainings, for example, a certified Scrum Master, or more importantly, an advanced certified Scrum Master, you'll also get a chance to facilitate with a group of people to create a product vision, or facilitate a group of people to create a product backlog. So some of these are practice sessions which we probably have an opportunity to implement in a class rather than a 1-hour webinar like this. Right? So we are not able to practice here, which is something missing, but hopefully you will get to practice either at your workplace or maybe an advanced class or somewhere. Okay, so let's look at this responsibilities of a facilitator. What do you do typically as a Scrum Master in your facilitation hat? And then we will go ahead and answer that question raised by Parag. Okay, so first thing, as a facilitator, as a Scrum Master, say for any event like a sprint planning or a sprint retrospective or a sprint review, broad 3-level responsibilities. You design and plan. You guide and control the whole proceedings. Control is not in the command and control, that control. You're trying to make sure you have full influence on the whole session that is happening, though you do not make those decisions. You have full control of the flow of the discussion. And then recording. So some of these are broad level responsibilities of a facilitator. But let's go a little bit deeper into each of them. In the design and plan, this is something typically that happens before the meeting itself. For example, you're getting into a retrospective. Okay, the question is, what is the structure of the retrospective? You should do it on the last day. A sprint retrospective can be organized, can be structured using various formats. Right, so figure out a way to do it. Now, what is the place? Are we meeting in person, or is it a virtual retrospective? If it is virtual, what are those logistics? Who are the participants? For example, you're doing a facilitation for a sprint review. Now, who are the people who are going to join? Work with your product owner. Figure out the profiles, their backgrounds, and what is their stake in this work that we are doing. What is their interest? At what level? You can draw a quick stakeholder matrix and then see who is more influenced rather than who should be more informed. Right? So you're going to do some analysis about the profile of the people that are going to turn up to this meeting. How much time? And how familiar are these with the rest of the group? Should we do any ice breaking to start with? Right? Should we do an introduction, a formal introduction session before at the start of the meeting? Right? So you're going to design, you're going to plan, you're going to structure the whole event or that meeting. Then during the event, how do you actually run it? You set a context, you have a clear flow that you have planned for. And then, of course, you need to use certain facilitation techniques to make sure there are decisions made, which we will see quickly in the next few minutes. Obviously, listening could be one of your major important skills. And then that is how you are engaging people. You are asking the right questions and you are intervening when it is needed. Right. And then you ask certain open-ended questions as well. And certain times you are more in a listening mode. And then the last step is more of the recording of the session. It's not necessary that you are writing all the notes. You can have someone who can help you as well. You assign a scribe, or maybe somebody from the team, from the developers, or maybe a product owner at times. And you seek clarifications, make sure everyone understands the plan, understands the follow-up, understands what needs to be done next, right? So you make sure the decisions are recorded, you check, you probably clarify, is this the right decision? Or you're trying to be a devil's advocate at times during the decision making. Remember, you are not the decision maker. In an event where you are facilitating, you are only a facilitator. You are more neutral, right? It is the participants or the team members, the audience are the decision maker in this. And that is exactly the reason why a facilitator is needed. Because it's going to be very difficult to figure out how a team will make a decision. Okay, so at a broad level, again, for more practice, you should find out other opportunities on how you can practice them. If any of you is in a Scrum team playing a Scrum Master role already, you could take some of these steps as takeaways and start defining a structure for your own facilitation for a specific event. Or if you happen to join an advanced class, maybe you will get an opportunity to facilitate with a small group of 3 or 4 people, right? That's what we do in a typical class. Wow, we have 2 hands up. So let us go. Before going to your question, let us answer Parag's question and then Vijay followed by Kanika, right? So Parag's question is there any limitation to do facilitation? Should I be tied up with something that, oh, I should not facilitate today? Is there any situation or a reason why Scrum Master should not facilitate? Can anyone answer that question, please?
If there's conflict of interest?
It's a conflict of interest. Wow. Thank you. Any other reasons, anyone?
I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but sometimes that like you have those teams of different maturity quotients, and in higher maturity quotients, facilitation works. But in teams which are not so mature and you need to participate with them, and maybe, like maybe sometimes I've had to handhold and do a little more than just facilitation. So I often question myself that am I even being just a Scrum Master, or am I being an engineering manager, or am I being a developer, or what? But just a facilitator did not help that time.
Sure. So again, you might have to play different responsibilities in one single meeting, and that's what you should check. If you are with the capacity of a manager in a meeting, or if you are in the capacity of a product owner in another event, possibly facilitation will not work on that occasion. So you also have to check what is the role that I am playing today. I cannot have multiple capacities in one meeting because that will definitely lead to a conflict of interest. For the teams, it's going to be a lot more confusing than rather not having a facilitator, right? Because they're looking up to you as, say, a manager, for example. Then facilitation will not work.
Scrum Master.
Okay, Vijay, Okay, I haven't really answered
Hi.
our friend's question. Yes, just hold on, Vijay. Sorry. So, to answer Parag's question, I think we are discussing on those lines. Whenever there is a conflict of interest, for example, as a Scrum Master, I know we are in a retrospective today. We are joining a retrospective. We have all the arrangements made, and I'm a facilitator here. Now, if I have certain conflict of interest, or if I have a stake in today's discussion, let us say I have had my team's observations. I have observed my team in the last 2 weeks and I want to share my observations. And I have a very definite view that this is not the right way to do things, which means I'm already biased. Even before getting into a retrospective, I'm already biased that a specific team member's decision or some work done is not in the right way. So if I'm already biased, I may not do justice to the facilitation. So I would rather say stay out of facilitation for that day. And this is going to be a limitation. And instead, I would rather invite someone else to facilitate on that day. Maybe I'll call my fellow Scrum Master for a different team and say, hey, can you help us facilitation today? Because I'm going to be one of the team members today rather than a facilitator. So if I have a definite outcome planned, if I have a definite side to take, if I have my own biasing, my own view, it could be right, it could be wrong. On those occasions, I would say a facilitator should not be playing the job. Because it's very hard to be neutral when you are already planning for a specific outcome or when you're already taking a side. Because these meetings, they can go any direction. There can be multiple arguments, I mean, in the best interest. But there could be a conflict as well at times. So that times, I would say facilitation should not be done. And take help, seek help from someone else so that they can be a facilitator and you are actually sharing your point of view. Okay, let's go. Vijay's question next, then Kanika. Hey, Vijay.
Okay. Hi, Suresh. Yes, thanks for that. So, as you said, yes, Scrum Masters, they are not the decision makers, as well as the name suggests, they are just facilitating. And the last point which you have quoted is we can keep ourselves away from such discussions, such facilitations during any points which we can share. But during our normal facilitations, if we want to share our thoughts, okay, even though that is not a biased one, but still we want to share our experiences, okay, neutrally. So what is the way of having that placed in front of the team and how that can get captured during the meeting? Because this is all about getting inputs and guiding and making them engaged and get it convener kind of stuff. So where and how critically are points as a Scrum Master to be placed on the table?
Sure. This is a very, very practical situation, Vijay, that you have asked. Thank you so much for bringing it up. I think I'm sure other Scrum Masters are facing this challenge. So one way I would probably do is make it clear to everyone. So today I'm here in this capacity, but I also have certain observations. And then make it clear to everyone, and then let the people know that you have these observations. Maybe use a sticky note or something, and then make sure it is aware and well transparently available to everyone, rather than being biased only in your. Biased is not necessarily bad all the times, right? So biased meaning I have a very definite point of view, and I could be right also many, many times. So biasing is not just a negative connotation. So in this way, in this case, Vijay, transparency, being more transparent probably works better. So in a retro, for example, retrospective, right? There is a team which is doing retrospective. What went well, what went wrong, what are our action items? Let us say there is a format that we have decided upon and we are doing it. Everyone is writing notes. You as a facilitator is helping people to create such a platform, get the notes on the board, discuss, blah, blah, blah. But then you also know what went well, what went wrong, and so on. So you have your points to put forward, right? So this is where I was saying transparency could become a key, and then let people know that these are your observations and you will put them on the board. But then it's going to be very difficult for you to switch these hats in the same meeting, right? On one side, you are trying to tell people based on your experience, which is more of a mentorship hat that you are wearing versus a facilitator hat. So it becomes a big conflict of interest within yourself. And that is why just say it, write it, make people aware, put it more transparently on the whiteboard using post-its or any tool for that matter would probably help. But then again, when it comes to decision making, for example, what went well, what went wrong, these are the 20 different action items. Now, this is where you probably have to step back. You have given your ideas, let people make decisions. So give them a technique on how can make the decisions, which we will see in the next slide. Suggest certain things on how people can make decisions, but you don't make that decision. You see that clear line, if you're able to draw, probably that's what will help us to reduce that conflict in our mind.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Suresh.
Thank you. Okay, one last question on this topic from Kanika, and then we'll move on.
That's just a quick out of the mind question, like from your own experience on Scrum. Do you have any example or short story anecdote where facilitation was the key driver for the success of a project, or even the reverse, that in spite of the best facilitation it did not work, where facilitation was like
Very much possible, because facilitation is where you are helping make teams a decision, but the decision can be right, can be wrong at times. So it's not necessary that you are going to be successful with the overall outcome, because you are trying to see very pocketed result for that meeting. Let us say example is a sprint goal, right? You decide a sprint goal, meaning the team decides a sprint goal, and as a facilitator you are helping them choose a goal for themselves. Now, is it necessary that it will be the right goal every time? May not be. So you'll have to use some other mechanism also to check if this goal is probably moving your work in the right direction. As a Scrum Master, you might want to as a Scrum Master, you might want to work with a product owner as well, and maybe certain users as well, to check whether are we going in the right direction in the longer sense, right?
Yes.
So you have to apply your facilitation in the meeting, in the sprint planning meeting, plus also in a sprint review meeting, trying to connect the dots. Some of those long-term aspects have to be plugged in. Otherwise, this is going to be a very successful meeting, yet the overall outcome may still be a failure, right? So you'll have to employ various things at various parts of time to check how successful we are. So for that, you need to facilitate not only the Scrum team with the sprint planning, but you should also facilitate, say, for example, a review meeting with the right set of users. So you will work with product owner to see what is the kind of people or the profile of the people who are joining a sprint review who can dictate your outcome in a longer run, I'm saying. So facilitation could help you in pockets, but you should employ that facilitation at various parts of the game so that overall it can be a successful outcome for everyone, right? Let us see some of those techniques in terms of how facilitation can help. So maybe you can apply this technique in this point of time, while applying a different technique at a different point of time can help you to be largely successful. Okay, so let's go on to the last section of the presentation today to figure out what are some of those facilitation techniques. Meanwhile, I'm just looking at the chat if we have left out any questions. Can you please share details of professional Scrum facilitation skills training? Okay. Okay, so just to answer quickly that Swapna's question, facilitation skills, there are different training programs. I mean, you can either attend a training program or read a book or be part of certain online learning. Somewhere you should learn facilitation. Couple of opportunities for that. Number one is it's right here. Swapna, I'm hoping you are able to you are hearing what I was, you are actually at least reading what I was writing here. So how do you learn more about facilitation? One way is read a book. That's one. Two is, if you wanted to practice more, the next best way is to attend something called as a Scrum Alliance Advanced CSM class. Number three is be a member of the International Association of Facilitators, wherein there is an international forum actually, which helps you to learn a lot of techniques. So subscribe.
LinkedIn page, the international facilitation.
Yeah, sorry, 1 second. So I'll get to that. So there is a subscription that one can be a member of International Association of Facilitators, where you can learn more than those 500 facilitation techniques. So Parag, you were saying there is a LinkedIn page.
Yeah, I was just curious if there is a LinkedIn page also of them, which if you are following, and maybe even I could follow.
No, I was just thinking about there is a facilitation page. Yes, I exactly don't remember the name, but yes, that is one forum that one can choose.
Okay.
And then in Scrum Alliance, there is one more course. Facilitation as a course is also there.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Let me look up the actual website and get you a name.
Thank you.
Okay. This is one more. And yes, liberating structures is another way, is another learning where you can, I just saw one of our friends has posted that. And there is this another facilitators course from the international or the IC Agile facilitators course. Now, this is not the exact names that I was able to type, but you could probably a little bit Google more and learn more about those. So there are about 4 or 5 opportunities, Swapna and others, that I have quickly written on the chat in case anyone would like to learn more. Okay, so a few facilitation techniques let us look at. Probably take another 5 to 10 minutes and then we'll see if any other open questions. So facilitation techniques can be used in different ways, different forums. And one of the forums, probably the team has to make a decision. For example, in a sprint retrospective, you have those 20 different action items and you got to decide, or the team has to decide which action item to be taken up next. So this is one area of facilitation. And as a Scrum Master, you are facilitating, you are engaged in a session, you are listening to people. What are those various listening techniques that you could employ, right? Or in sometimes you have to use certain large group facilitation techniques as well. So I just quickly divided some of these into these 3 categories. So let us quickly check. Decision making, very one of the simplest ones is something as a dot voting, right? So you have 20 different action items on your sprint retrospective board, and you have to help a team to choose, say, 2 of them. You obviously cannot implement all 20. So this is where, as a team, they can choose the top 2. But how do they choose top 2? Everyone has an opinion. And that is where, as a Scrum Master, you should use a technique called dot voting, a simple voting mechanism, where you might say, okay, everyone gets a dot or 2 dots. You list them on the board. I select 1 and 5. Someone selects 5 and 8. So everyone comes forward. They select their most influential or most effective action items from that retrospective. At the end of a quick 5 minutes voting by everyone gets to vote twice. And some people decide that, oh, number 5 seems to be the most valuable thing. So I will put both my votes on number 5. Right. So there's a simple voting mechanism. At the end of that few minutes, you have a very clear list of action items which can be taken up by that team for the following sprint. Fist of 5. Again, a very simple one. Fist of 5. Right. Some of you would have already seen this used in, say, large boardroom meetings or even in Scrum teams, trying to understand what is their confidence level. Yesterday I met one of the Scrum Masters and he was saying, hey, use Fist of 5 in trying to check the confidence levels of the teams. In a sprint planning, they create a sprint goal and everyone is like thinking, can we reach the sprint goal? So the Scrum Master said, let us do a Fist of 5. So everyone raises their fist and then votes, 5 being the most highest confidence in terms of meeting the sprint goal versus 1 being at the lowest level. So usually all the Scrum team members raise their fists, the developers especially, because they are the ones who are accomplishing that work. And then visually the Scrum Master can count how is the confidence level. Right? You can use this in different ways. Trying to check the confidence level of a sprint goal implementation could be one. Or even your sprint review, you can use something like this. How satisfied are the stakeholders by the end of the sprint review? It could be a good feedback mechanism. Again, something very trivial, thumb voting, thumbs up, thumbs down, and neutral, right? If someone is typically voting for a specific measure or an action item, you ask them to raise thumbs up, thumbs down. If someone is neutral, I don't care, kind of an option, they use a horizontal way of demonstrating that, right? These are quick ways of how you can employ some decision making. I mean, there can be many more. Just a few examples that we are discussing here. So facilitative listening. As a Scrum Master, as a facilitator, you are also in a session very keenly listening. And this is where you probably have to use definite techniques about how you make these sessions more engaging. Right? Paraphrasing is one of them, where you are trying to listen to the audience and then trying to summarize their viewpoint in a very shorter manner using different words. You're not repeating this. You are probably summarizing the whole thing in using different words. And sometimes, rather than repeating a summary, you are trying to reflect the emotion that the audience have. Or somebody is saying, we would like to suggest this, blah, 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 for these reasons. So then rather than saying that whole thing, paraphrasing or summarizing or repeating, you are trying to reflect their the whole emotion behind it, or whether they are happy or sad about certain things. So this is one way you are going to employ in your facilitation. And sometimes you see there are a lot of people who are dominating the conversations, or some people not even talking at all. And that is where, as a facilitator, you have to make space for people. Okay, now this is brilliant suggestion, but let us also hear out from X. Probably she has a better idea than all of us. So she seems to be very, very reserved right now, but probably she has a great idea. Let us hear out. So you're trying to make space for people and you're trying to let everyone participate so that some ideas could be very useful. And one more important thing on those lines is stacking. So stacking is where you're trying to go round robin. For example, daily scrum. One team found it highly challenging in terms of how to do a daily scrum in 15 minutes. So this Scrum Master said, how about doing a specific order? Or we go in the order of all the user stories, or we go in an alphabetical order of the names. So you're trying to go around the table using a specific attribute. So that is what is called stacking, where you are bringing some method to the whole madness. Right? Again, there are additional facilitative listening techniques as well. So I'm just trying to list a few of them here. Now, large group facilitation techniques. This is very useful, especially when Scrum Masters or Agile coaches are part of large agile transformations with bigger departments and some org level initiatives that are happening across the company. So one of the examples is fishbowl. Fishbowl is a technique where you're trying to get participation from maximum people in a quick manner. Let us say there is a group of people, about say 25 vice president level people that you are working with. And then everyone has an idea, and you want to gather ideas from all of them as quickly as possible. So you have them seated in a circular manner, and then you have 3 seats or 3 chairs in the center of that whole room. Around that, there are 25 chairs for all the 25 people. Now you as a facilitator will set certain ground rules that in these center 3 chairs, 2 are always occupied, who are going to have a discussion. Let us say there is a problem statement that how do we do this whole agile transformation in our organization? Invite ideas. So there are 2 people at the center who are always discussing. Now there is a third person who also has an idea, who also wants to contribute. Now they come and they occupy the center chair, the third one. And the moment someone gets there, one of the other 2 must leave. So the conversation is now shifted to these rest of the 2 people. And as a facilitator, you are also a scribe there, making some notes or recording this whole session so that you can gather these inputs and then make a organizational transformation plan at a later point in time. This worked very well in a couple of occasions that I was part of this fishbowl sessions. Likewise, there is something called World Cafe. Some of you would have joined my CSN class, would have already witnessed this, though probably the name is not known at that time. We use this quite often, wherein you are trying to rotate the suggestions and brainstorming done by several smaller groups. Again, you have a group of say 20 people, or like 2 or 3 Scrum teams. There is a larger group than that. You're trying to have different teams wherein they're going to brainstorm on one topic, and then another team is brainstorming on another topic. Like a third team, fourth team, they have different teams brainstorming on different related topics. Now, at the end of that 10 minutes, 15 minutes conversation, you rotate people like a cafe. And then when one team moves from one table to another table, everyone will leave except one person. And that one person is going to stay back and try to explain the rationale or the discussion that happened so far. And then it continues. You rotate across those 4 tables, and that is where you are getting maximum participation, maximum brainstorming. It's a very, very structured way of brainstorming. That's another way to facilitate little larger groups. And if the group is so big, say you have hundreds of people, then you could probably use something like an open space. Open space is a very, very structured old technique. It's not about now, it's been there since 80s and 90s, wherein, for example, there is an organization going through a transformation, and then you wanted to gather ideas from the ground. Because some teams are already doing Scrum, some teams are yet to get there. You want to have people exchange ideas. Open space could be your best bet. But this requires a lot of physical open space. So that's why these are done in large conference rooms or cafeterias, or even bigger rooms like ballrooms in hotels and so on, wherein there are certain rules to be followed for open space. And there are certain junctions where people are talking, explaining ideas, people move across. There are certain ground rules to be followed. I mean, you can learn if you want to learn more, maybe you should Google or somewhere. So likewise, there are different techniques depending on your audience, depending on the context, depending on the event that you are facilitating, depending on the profile. There could be several things that one could use in facilitation. Okay, so that's in brief about what we had. We had originally planned for about 1 hour on the LinkedIn Live, but unfortunately we could not do it. But let us check if anyone has any questions. Probably we have about another 10-15 minutes, and then we'll close it.
Hi, thanks for your session. Sairam here.
Hey.
So I just have some small doubt. I have close to 10 years experience in both IT and banking domain, and I just want to move into the management sector. So one of your, I mean, when I approach you, one of your the colleagues, and they suggest me that why can't you go for the product owner role? So and meanwhile, if you want to go to the product owner, you should have some agile methodology and basics of that. So for that, you should do some CSM activities, which is why I am just staying here. So I just had some. I just want to clarify something. So, what kind of role which will be? Can you suggest for me? Since I'm having experience in both banking and IT. In IT specifically, I have in the cloud domain, and in future I may go out of India. So, for a future sake, so which will be the better career for me if I want to go to either product owner or project manager or whatever, which is like a management sector, which will be have some good valuable assets for me.
Sure. So it's more of a career related question is what you are asking, Ram, I see.
Right.
So I mean, I'll give you a general guidance because I mean, last week we did a similar session where we would have answered certain career related questions. In general, my idea is anyone who would like to grow in a Scrum, a team, in a Scrum Agile organization, the idea is you should get to some basics, and all such basics are covered in a certified Scrum Master class. So that's why probably someone would have suggested to do a CSM. But if you are looking to become a product owner, develop a product, help your business users, stakeholders, determine value, bring value to your organization, then definitely product owner could be the right certification. But the reason why CSM should be done first, again, this is my recommendation. This is not a rule by Scrum Alliance. From Scrum Alliance, you can do either CSM or CSPO to start with. It doesn't matter. Both are foundational certifications. But generally, my suggestion is to do CSM because this is where you learn Scrum basics. In a product owner session, you don't learn basics of Scrum much. You learn more of product ownership, which is a much bigger subject than Scrum itself. So get basics of Scrum first in CSM. Then you expand into product owner, CSPO. And then you decide, oh, am I a Scrum Master? Then I would rather go for an advanced CSM. Am I a product owner? Then I would go for an advanced product owner session. So then you decide. So basic 2 certifications, generally I suggest whoever is looking to get certified. Of course, certifications are not the only places where you learn. You can pick up any forum. This is definitely going to give you certain professional guidance in terms of what is good start with. So just to quickly summarize the answer, CSM could be a good starting point, followed by a CSPO, is what I would think for you, Ram.
Okay, for my 10 years experience, and I can go out for a further role, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Thanks, Suresh. Have a great day.
Thank you, and you too. Okay. Vijay, I see your hand up. I'm not sure if you have raised it again or if you have a question to ask.
No, I've already asked the one which we discussed. Yeah.
Okay, sure. And Kanika?
Yeah. Suresh, I don't know whether this is pertaining. It's not pertaining to facilitation as such because facilitation is only. It can be in Agile also, right? You can be a facilitator in any of the Kanban, anything, right? So, leaving that apart, my question is that how would you choose between give me a case where Scrum does not apply. I talked to a person in TVS Motors. He was like, "We don't even use Scrum." So I said, "What do you use?" He said, "PMP, traditional those PERT chart methods and everything." So I asked him, "Don't you face challenges of part dependency?" He said, "No, it's working for us." So, like, I was wondering why they never migrated to Scrum. Does it not apply to their industry or what?
So, remember we were saying in one of our initial discussions in this session, we said Scrum is applicable in case of complex products, complex services or projects. Now, what is complex? Complex means where your problem or your solution or your requirements are not clearly defined upfront.
Unpredictable.
unpredictable, uncertainty is at its best, where you are not sure what the customer needs. The customer is saying, hey, I want to build best banking experiences to my users. Wow, this is awesome. But what do you exactly want to achieve when you say best banking, right? So best banking experiences to my users can mean a lot of things. So this is very, very uncertain at this moment. So as you move forward, you are going to understand more and more about that best banking or the best, most effective stuff that I would like to provide to my users, right? So when you are uncertain about certain things like that, when you don't know what the users need, when you don't know what the developers are going to develop and how they are going to develop, the solution is also not clear. And that domain is called as a complex domain. And that's where Scrum works best. So if you are manufacturing something in an assembly line where everything is crystal clear, where there is no uncertainty, the problem is clearly defined, the assembly line is defined, the molding is very much given, you're just operating, these are like typical operations, right? A spare part after spare part, or a bike after bike, or a car after car you are trying to manufacture. This is not a complex domain because things are pretty clear. In a complex domain, Scrum will not really, or I would say Scrum is not really needed. You can still use Scrum for some basic communications. Daily Scrum can still help even if it is predictable. But then there ends the benefit of Scrum. So Scrum is most beneficial when you don't have a very clear idea on what you are building, where the customer doesn't know what they need, where the team doesn't know how they are going to do it. That is where Scrum is best applicable. When you are doing something already known, maybe a Kanban, like a flow can help, or a typical old way of working like a project management, a traditional workflow can work. Anything else can work, but Scrum doesn't find its big benefits there. It can still be used. A lot of teams are still using it, but it is very limited benefits is what I would say.
And this is mostly found in manufacturing, according to you?
It can be manufacturing, it can be re-engineering of even a software product where you already have certain technologies used. The features are given, and then you are re-engineering into a new technology where there is no innovation needed except the technology itself. Then you don't really use Scrum. Right? Okay, great. Thank you. And let us check. There are 3 hands up. So Nandini's question, please.
Sure. Hello, Suresh.
Hello.
I have very limited experience in this role. So I started facing a problem when I started facilitating meetings. I was just getting inputs from them about the status. And then if they have some impediments, I would resolve it. But I wasn't really micromanaging them. But then people started like many spillovers have started happening. So my manager asked me to somewhat micromanage, like if they are giving some updates, he wants exactly like if they say 10%, I've completed 10% today. The next day he was expecting some significance difference, like if there are no significant difference, then I should go in depth and ask why he or she was not able to make any good progress. And yeah, he was kind of asking me to micromanage. But the problem is, in longer terms, if I keep micromanaging, we cannot make team self-manage. Forever they're going to be needing a Scrum Master.
Right.
So, and the problem why, and the reason why he was asking us to micromanage was people were somewhere not accountable or a bit lethargic. So how do I resolve these problems? I think there are 2 problems: people being lethargic sometimes, and the other thing is micromanagement.
Okay. Okay, sure. So I think this is also a very, very common challenge faced by Scrum Master. But did you ask or did you check why your team members are lethargic? Do you know that they're really lethargic? Did you even figure it out? Because being lethargic is probably the manager's observation. I don't know. I just want to check. Did you even find out, is that a true statement?
I just found out one thing: they have some technical gaps.
Okay. The skill issues you need to fix.
Yes, that's what I noticed, but I didn't observe any lethargy.
So that's not lethargy then.
Yes.
Right. Lethargy is more to do with the personality or people not showing so much of interest for whatsoever reason. But skill gap could be an altogether different issue. And then you, as a Scrum Master, you should probably see, is my team really cross-functional today? Do they have the right skills? If skills are having a gap, then probably you have to think and address that problem, working with the L&D or working with the HR, working with your manager. I think this is definitely one solution that you should look at. And micromanagement, right? The second aspect that you are asking. So you tried that, and Did you try micromanaging and see what are the results in a short term, long term? Any observations there?
Yes, by micromanagement, I mean like keep on asking if they say like I'll complete it by this time, just give them a little buffer time and then go back and ask right away, like have you done this? So I think they were slightly getting burned out. That's what I noticed.
Okay.
And I'm not sure. I highly doubt if they were happy with this way.
Okay. No, will not be happy for sure. You probably also have to think about yourself. Are you happy doing this? But more important than both of these aspects is the organization gaining any value because of this. I think you should look at it that level and also try to explain to your manager about why you haven't done this in the first place, right? But let us see this in a long term, right? In a long term, is it really going to help? Or what can we do to avoid such situation? I think you should do more of that self reflection in terms of yourself as well as a team, and figure out maybe you should have a one-on-one conversation also with your team members. Figure out. See, I don't know the full situation, so I'm only trying to suggest certain quick things here. If I know a full situation, maybe I would deal with the situation problem differently. But coaching, right? So I was referring to the coaching conversation. Here, facilitation may or may not work at all times. So you probably have to get into a different hat, coaching, for example, and then figure out, say with your teams, one-on-one or in a group setting, trying to do a root cause analysis, why things went wrong in some places. Ask them to list down the reasons. And more so, rather than you suggesting them the ways to improve things, check with them what is their opinion on that. So see the history, how these transactions have happened before. So you should look at many things to actually make it happen. This is not an immediate solution that you can implement. This is going to take some time for sure, but it will give you long-term benefits. Right. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to suggest is get into one-on-one conversations in your retrospectives, do root cause analysis, figure out why these things are happening, because lethargy is different from the skill gap. So skill gap could be one issue you should address immediately. So look at it a holistic perspective rather than just one thing, is what I would suggest. This is on the team side. On the managerial side, you should also tackle differently, trying to have one-on-one with your manager, why things are happening like this, what is the history of the team here, try to learn some of those things, because you wouldn't have been there from the beginning. Some of these aspects would also define how the deliverables are happening, right? So look at those aspects is what I would suggest.
Thanks, Suresh.
Okay, maybe we should do last two questions. One from Swarupa, next from Mahesh.
I just attended an interview. So wherein I was asked, what are the techniques that you use to prioritize? So basically, as far as I know, prioritization is basically done by the product owner. So that's what I mentioned. Then I was told that as a Scrum Master, you need to help in decision making for prioritization. So what are the techniques that you use? But I was not aware of it.
Sure. Okay. So Swarupa, again, this is a little next level responsibility for the Scrum Master, I would say. Though we say Scrum Master facilitates Scrum events, another big responsibility for the Scrum Master is you should help a product owner to do their job better.
Okay.
And you are absolutely right. Product owner is the person who is going to prioritize the product backlog. That's
yes.
for sure. But you should also help a product owner to prioritize the product backlog better, which means you should learn those techniques first in order to teach others, right?
Okay.
You see the connection here? I think this is where probably the interviewer is asking.
Yes.
Or the other reason why interviewer is asking this question is they are not even aware that the product owner's job is to prioritize and it is not Scrum Masters, because a lot of organizations don't even know this.
Yeah.
Now, here is the reason. The reason could be anything, but you should invariably learn a product owner's job also. That is why a lot of Scrum Masters, as Scrum Masters, they slip into the shoes of a product owner a lot many times, try to learn what they are, they perform their daily job and so on, right?
Yeah.
So if you happen to read a product owner's book or work with your own product owner or attend a product owner class or somewhere, I would still suggest you learn these techniques. You know,
Okay.
one of the very, very basic techniques is, the Moscow technique, for example, right?
Yeah.
Have, should have, could have, etc., etc. So
Yes.
learn that, practice it, and you help your product owner practice it. And that is how you are helping a product backlog management as well in turn.
Okay. Okay.
Likewise, there are like 3, 4, 5, 10 different techniques on how you prioritize product backlog. Some of them could be very objective. Some of them can be very subjective. Some of them
Yeah.
are very easy. Some of them are very, very complex also. But the idea is you should learn how to prioritize a
Okay.
product backlog.
Okay. And is it necessary to learn DevOps to get into Scrum Master role? Because they were looking into DevOps as well. So as I was not aware of it, so I feel that.
See, Scrum has always been maintaining that your releases can happen at any time.
Yeah.
Scrum, the sprints are not really associated with any specific release.
Yeah.
And your requirements, your designs and planning and your release ultimately can happen at any time, while Scrum is focusing on the rest of the cycle largely so far. But
Yes.
this DevOps thing came in between, and then people started talking as if DevOps is something different. No, DevOps is nothing different from Scrum.
Okay.
DevOps is actually injected, the work that is done by the engineers is actually injected during the sprints itself. So Scrum and DevOps go hand in hand. They're not really separate. So as a Scrum Master, if your question is, should I learn what is DevOps? It's a very good idea to learn what is DevOps, what are the various tools. And you may not be hands-on with all those tools, but at least try to learn as a DevOps concept what is being done. What are
Yeah.
those popular tools? Get to know some of these aspects so that you can help your teams facilitate their decision making when it comes to DevOps way of working. It is a very, very good idea. Again, that's a long-term process in terms of, because there are too many things associated with DevOps and the tools. It might take
Yeah.
some time, but yes, that's a good idea as well. See, there is no stopping to learning, right?
Yeah.
Product owner learning, DevOps learning, or anything else. I think this should be a continuous process in my view.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mahesh, one last question and then we will conclude for today.
Yeah. Hi, Suresh. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mahesh.
Oh, thank you. Well, my question is also similar to the previous question. I mean, partly. I'm very new to this world, but I'm still learning. I often get confused the roles and responsibilities of among all these product owners, the Scrum Master, development team. So my interest towards the VA. So what is the association of VA towards the Scrum and product owner, or is it clear definite roles and responsibilities, or somewhere or other they need to get into the shoes of all the roles put on the table? How to take it forward? Please.
Okay, if your question is a BA or a business analyst,
yeah,
where is a business analyst in Scrum? Are they more towards a product owner, or are they more towards a Scrum Master? If that is a question, in a very, very short answer, a business analyst is trending towards more of a product owner's job. Right. So product owner is a person who is creating a product backlog, prioritizing it, working with the users, asking them questions and trying to translate that to the developers on the other side, on the technical side. So that's a typical product owner's job. But then product owners are too busy. They are working with multiple teams, large organizations, so they get so busy such that some of these day-to-day responsibilities cannot be done by them due to lack of bandwidth for them, right? So organizations, what they do is, okay, product owner, we understand you are busy. So what we do is we will provide some support to you in terms of a business analyst. So business analyst has great knowledge and is always available to the teams in terms of answering their questions, liaising with the product owners or the users at times, and trying to connect the dots and helping the developers do their day-to-day job in terms of any functional details. So these are great skills, great individuals needed for Scrum teams. But Scrum did not define a business analyst formally, because they said we already have a product owner definition who is almost more or less doing the same things. So that's why you will not find a business analyst definition in the Scrum framework. But they are more towards a product owner's job. So product owner can be for multiple teams, but trying to drive this work through a business analyst also at times. So depending on the organization, they have these different designations and different roles and all those things. But if you want to learn a business analyst work, what they do, how they prioritize, then you probably should join a CSPO class or read a product owner book or whatever that works well.
Okay, because I had that in like Scrum review and retrospective, often this product owner has to be involved, and but many times this product owner is busy. Upfront they don't say that BA, but BA in place of product owner will take the job and do for product owner. Is that correct?
So it depends on the organization size that we are dealing with. But if it's a small organization, then there is no product owner, no Scrum, no product owner and no business analyst separate. They are the same. But if it's a large organization, a more complex setup, then that is where probably these are defined.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much, Suresh.
Thank you, Mahesh. Again, I know we had very less time for your conversation, but you can talk to one of my team members on the chat so that they can help you more, or you can join one of our next mentoring sessions as well so that we can discuss more.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for joining today. I know some glitches in the beginning, but hopefully we had made up with a very, very good participation and good learning.
Yes.
Hopefully in this session. Thank you so much for joining, and you can always chat with us on the Premier Agile website, and we will organize more such sessions. We have been doing 1 or 2 sessions every month, so please be tuned to our calendar.
Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you. Naveen, if you could kindly post Premier Wednesday link so that everyone can register for our upcoming events. We are in the process of announcing more events for March and April. I don't think we have announced any new events, but we'll probably see those on the calendar pretty soon. And till then, thank you everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Suresh.
And hope to see you in the next session. And this recording will be available on YouTube probably in a week's time. So please be tuned for that as well.
Thank you so much, Suresh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh.
Thanks, Suresh.